Hey, how's it going, man?
Hey, good. How are you?
Good. You see me all right?
Yep.
Cool.
Good.
How you doing?
Can't complain. Everything's
Yeah?
going pretty well.
All right.
How are things over there?
Busy,
Yep.
but trying to live and get through things. But yeah, it's
Nice.
always a hectic time of year to get started off with. Race season, kind of kicking into full swing, and trying to get from event to event to event, and then
Yeah.
keep the shop running in the middle of all that is always fun. So.
Yeah, I have to imagine you've got quite a bit of people who were, trying to get everything together last minute.
Yeah, and it's always, no matter how much you plan in advance, always something last minute you have to do, before some kind of event like that. So, yeah, it gets you challenging and tricky, and there's a lot of moving parts, and then you end up with 8 cars at an event and trying to support them all and make sure they all run and stay running, and especially when you deal with a lot of Subarus, that gets tough. So
Yeah, a lot of motor related stuff.
yeah, but yeah, I mean it's a lot of fun. So I
Awesome.
definitely.
Yeah. So I think I kind of already got a pretty good idea, but the idea is kind of to share this and get people kind of to know you better. So I guess if you want, just kind of give a brief introduction of yourself and your business, and kind of what got you into this.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, my name's Tony. Had been running Turn In Concepts, which is my performance shop, for 18 years now. Started off a long time ago, really just in Subaru stuff. We were making drivetrain components like bushings for shifters and differentials and stuff like that way back in the day, and we were doing it on the side. And then eventually got the opportunity to kind of move into a warehouse space and really start doing the performance car thing, and yeah, we're able to turn it into a full-on shop. And then we found Time Attack 2009 era, kind of got into it in the early stages of Redline Time Attack, when that was just taking off and getting popular.
Mm-hmm.
Got into the One Lap of America and found out how much fun Time Attack was to do in that format. And that just keeps spreading, kept going into different areas. We started building Time Attack cars for other people. And now that's a lot of our business, is still doing street performance, for a lot of people that want engine builds and more power and better suspensions for their street cars, or for, cars they're going to take on track. But then also prepping cars for people for Time Attack, for wheel-to-wheel racing. Everything from, Subarus to BMWs to Porsches, into Teslas now, which has been my heavy focus. And really anything that's fun to drive on track. I mean, that's really, we don't really care ultimately what powers it. We just want to make sure that we have a good time doing it, and we have a good time, being out on track driving. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's a really cool business. I've kind of been in automotive my whole life as well. So, gotten into the kind of performance side of things, and I used to be big into BMWs, and certainly recently that's more transitioned to the Tesla stuff. But there's not a lot of shops that have a lot of experience with this type of work. So it's really cool to see you out there and kind of leading the way with this type of stuff. So that being said, I'd love to know what was the first car you ever took out on track?
My first car out on track, I think it was probably my 04 WRX that I had way back in the day, which was one of the cars that really started our business. My partner's got an 04 STI. He still has his. I don't have my WRX anymore, but those are the 2 cars that really started our business, that we started designing parts for back in the day. I think that was the first one I ever took out on track. But we definitely were more into autocross first before I got into track stuff.
Okay, yep.
We used to do a lot of autocross, 2 to 4 events a month. We were doing pretty much every weekend, every other weekend, we were out there doing another autocross event. And we had a good time with it. We really liked autocross. And then got an opportunity to do a track day, and just was mind-blowing. Couldn't believe how much fun I could have out on track. This is amazing. I have to do this all the time.
Absolutely.
And it wasn't until probably 2008 that I really started doing a lot of track stuff, a ton of track days, and just learning about it. And then shortly thereafter is when it went down the rabbit hole of Time Attack, and then shortly thereafter that wheel-to-wheel.
Awesome.
And I do a lot of wheel-to-wheel endurance racing. I have an endurance team, where we prep endurance cars, and either for other people or prep them for ourselves to rent out to other drivers to allow them an opportunity to drive with us in a wheel-to-wheel environment. So a lot of our team that does a lot of the Gridlife events also will go and do a lot of the endurance events with us, because they're all very good drivers. They all enjoy the time attack stuff that they do with Gridlife, but they all want to get more seat time and they want to get better at it. So a lot of us end up at the same track at the different race doing endurance stuff. So for the most part, I'm out there all the time. But that's kind of how we got started with it. Was just like that one lone track day that that kind of jumped me into driving on track.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, that's kind of the dream, right? Is to be out at the racetrack as much as you can.
Yeah, I think this year it's probably going to be close to 20 weekends.
Wow.
That I'll be on track, which is pretty awesome. And honestly, I don't know if I can handle a whole lot more than that. 20 is already an insane number of weekends to be at the track.
Yeah.
Especially when you have a full-time commitment running a shop back home. It's a lot to be able to ask that of myself and of my employees as well, who have to bear me not being here, for those weekends. But I mean, maybe they like it better when I leave. I don't know. Who knows? Could be a little vacation for them, but yeah, I mean, it's I'm lucky that I get to do what I do, for sure. It's always been a passion of mine ever since I was a kid. I think I had a Lamborghini Countach poster on my wall when I was probably like 8 years old, and I loved it. And I still am like, into those kind of cars, but I really now prefer the project cars that you can make your own. That's really what's exciting to me at this point in life. I don't chase after like the super rare stock, whatever, Corvette or a Lamborghini or an Audi or BMW. For me, it's all about, taking that normal car and making it something extraordinary, and really having fun.
Gotcha. No, absolutely. I can certainly align with that. I've still got a E46 M3, so I can,
Nice.
I had that car since 2011 and turned it into a track car, put a cage in it, broke it in like 2014. Went to a body shop for several years, and I'm just starting to piece it back together. So, it's definitely one of those things where you kind of put your heart and soul into a car and, really make it your own. And it's something you can be proud of. Just buying a car off the showroom floor is not the same. No,
I've got a similar project with an E36 M3 that I've had since probably about same time period, but I bet you probably since 2011, 2012. And I absolutely love it. I mean, it's gone through like multiple engine configurations and whatnot, as first a street car, then into a track car. And now I'm building it for Gridlife GLTC.
Oh, okay.
And I've got a K24 in it. And right now it's in the waiting phase for doing wiring. So the PDM and Motec are getting ready to go into it, and we've got to do all the chassis and engine wiring for it. But super fun car, My goal is like 2,100 pounds, full weight when I'm done with it. So, but yeah, I mean, there's something about 36 and the 46 chassis for me that's just kind of still magical. Yeah, I've driven a lot of cars. Spent a lot of time in Miatas and Boxsters and all kinds of different things, but I still love that chassis.
Yeah, definitely. I think a timeless chassis. I think my favorite car I ever owned, just in terms of like pure enjoyment, was a E36 M3. It's funny because like almost to a degree, the faster the car gets on the street, the less you can really use it. I think the E36 had a good balance. Yeah,
I've got an old Boxster, a 986. That's a street car right now, and I think about having like more powerful cars or fast cars. I've had all kinds of fast street cars before, but honestly, it was like this thing makes like maybe 200 horsepower at the wheels, maybe. But it's just set up with the right amount of fun stuff, good wheels and suspension on it, and just an exhaust that I can hear it, and I love that thing. Because when I want to beat on it and really have fun with it, I barely break the speed limit.
Yep, exactly.
I don't really worry about getting in trouble with it, but I can throw the top down and have a good time in it, and it's a great overall street car.
Awesome. Yeah, no, and I really kind of, am similar with regards to, kind of making that transition from autocross to track days and then into racing. You do autocross and you think, wow, this is the most fun I've had in a car. and then you do a track day, and it's kind of like that next level. You know, and you look at the economics of it, and you go, okay, well, at an autocross I get about 6 minutes, and, you know, and at a track day I can go drive for 2 hours. I think I'm gonna hit the track more often. You know, and it's definitely kind of this addictive thing where you just kind of end up going back over and over again, and always trying to, you know, find a half a second, a tenth of a second, and, you know, it's definitely, for me, you know, one of the most enjoyable things you can do. So, you know, definitely, I think I've had a similar experience. So I guess my question then is, like, I know you said, you know, it doesn't really matter what powers it. I just want it to go fast and have the right parts. But, you know, what kind of prompted you to get into EVs?
Anybody who's remotely paying attention to the aftermarket space will see, kind of the writing on the wall in terms of what's going on with internal combustion engine cars, what's going on with EPA regulation, and really just kind of the future state of performance cars, and that things are going electric, you know, electric and or hybrid. Internal combustion is already obviously becoming less popular, and big automakers are already making the big push to get into EVs more and more, and saying that they're not going to make internal combustion engine cars, you know, eventually. And while I think that, you know, a place like mine, a business like mine, could hold on for quite a while, being able to maintain, being able to still build performance cars, you know, say Subarus, because that's still, you know, 70% of what we do. Eventually that's not going to be there. You know, in the long run, that's going to go away to a great extent. So about 2.5 years ago, we decided to get the Tesla in order to see what it was like to have an electric vehicle and still treat it like we would any other performance car project that we have, and that, you know, what is it like to modify it? Especially even 2.5 years ago, I felt like there was so much less known about the cars than there is now. And even now, there's still a lot of places that will refuse to work on them because they think they're very strange cars. And what we found is that the car is just like any other car. You know, it obviously powers itself differently. It doesn't have the internal combustion engine. It uses, you know, batteries and electric motors instead. But all of the same principles of making a car go fast on track still apply.
Absolutely.
You know, the braking and the handling and all the suspension setup and the aero and all that stuff is exactly the same. You know, it has not changed. I mean, obviously each car is a little bit different in setup and approach, but it's still a car. And I think that is what I wanted to see for myself is, was that the case? You know, was it still going to be something that was exciting to drive and something that I thought people in the long run would be interested in tracking? Because that is where my true questions about the future lied. Knowing that people are always going to be excited to drive something and want to modify things, you know, is it still going to be a viable option from a business perspective long term to be able to modify and build these into performance cars? And yeah, I mean, that's, so far it's been a lot of fun. You know, I really love taking the car out there. Honestly, I love driving the car on track. I really love driving the car on the street. And that was, I think, the big test for me, is that I still get excited to go out there and drive that thing and really see and show what it can do. You know, and again, like I've said, I don't really care ultimately what makes it go, you know, what powers it. You know, I just want to know that I can still have a good time with it when I go out on track. And, you know, very much the case. And even to the point where I drive the Tesla a lot on track. I drive other cars a lot on track. It's even to the point now where when I'm driving internal combustion engine cars, like my Boxster, for example, you know, you got to love the way a flat six sounds, you know, especially one that doesn't have much of an exhaust on a race car. You got to love that the flat six sound, but it gets a little annoying to me at times as well. You know, it's got this like 5,800 to 6,000 RPM, like kind of screaming noise that always kind of rattles my eardrums a little bit. And then, you know, we're at VIR in December racing that and going down the back straight. It was, you know, right after the start finish line, it would hit me. And I just, you know, after hours on end of doing that, you know, in an endurance race, just like it gets a little annoying, you know, and then you end up having to put earplugs in order to kind of drown out the sound of the exhaust because it's just too loud after hours and hours and hours. And then you start to realize as you do that you lose, other inputs that the car is giving you. The car is telling you other things, but you can't hear it over the exhaust. And that's one of the things that I want to drive the Tesla is very apparent. Because you don't have that exhaust sound, you really can hear what the tires are doing. You get to hear what the track is telling you, as the tires are pushing into the pavement. Or as you're running over rumble strips, maybe you hear a rattle in the car that you wouldn't normally be able to hear over the exhaust. But, now you're like, well, what was that? That's something else, something that you log in your head that says, okay, when I get done with the session, I got to go check out, something in the left rear because I heard a weird noise. And ultimately you realize that while the sound of an exhaust is oftentimes a very cool sound, unless you're in a Miata, and then you definitely don't want to hear the exhaust. It's ultimately just noise. It ultimately isn't really helping you do anything other than create like the ambience of a race car. It's not helping you go faster.
No.
It's not helping you with your competitors. It's not giving you an advantage unless, again, you're in a Miata and it's screaming at somebody else's ear in the car next to you.
Trying to get out of the way.
Yeah. It really is just extra stuff. It's extra stuff that you don't necessarily need to go fast. And I don't want to sound like I hate the sound of cars, because I absolutely love the sound of cars and the unique noises that they make. But when you're focused purely on speed, purely on lap time, purely on going fast, you want to limit everything that's not helping you go fast. And ultimately, the sound of an exhaust is not something that really helps you go fast. It's just something that detracts from your sensory perception of other inputs.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel that. And it's funny, when I first took the Model 3 out to VIR in early 2019, I got a lot of strange looks and a lot of people like, what the hell is this guy doing? And I didn't really know what to expect. I figured it'd be pretty good, but it was really more of a test to see. And the car really blew me away. And I think you're right. The one thing that people seem to focus on a lot is, well, it doesn't have an exhaust. It doesn't make sound. It's no fun. But, that also gives you the opportunity to really kind of align with the car in a much, kind of tighter way than you otherwise would. You get to focus on all these other inputs and all this other feedback that you just normally, don't even realize is there. And I felt the same. I don't ever get in the Tesla and go, ugh, geez, gotta drive the Tesla. Really wish, I was in something different or something that made a lot of noise.
Sure.
And now, I hear a car go blowing by down the street. That maybe 10 years ago I was like, ooh, that's cool. But I think as I've gotten older, I'm like, you know what, I think I could do without that.
There's a time and a place for things. It's a good example. I went to lunch today with one of my friends who I've known this guy for, I don't know, probably 15 years. And he races with us. He often rents seats in my endurance cars. And he has an endurance car himself. He has a rally car, a rally Subaru. He does a lot of rally racing and also does time attack stuff from time to time. But he's got a Mustang GT 350.
Okay, yeah.
And, that engine is one of those amazing, magical engines that just sounds awesome. Like, the exhaust note out of that thing is fantastic. And, we went in the Mustang to go to lunch today. And got on it a couple times and was like, okay, yep, I needed that. I needed to hear that sound for a minute. And it's, again, not that I think all sounds are bad. I really don't. But there's a time and a place for it. There are times when I don't want a loud car. I don't want to hear anything, There are times when I want to drive aggressively on the street and don't want to hear something. That's when the Tesla is fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, you can drive very aggressively on the street. No one ever knows.
Exactly, yeah.
Because nothing's alerting them. At the same time, I will say one of the most annoying things about having a Tesla track car is that no one ever hears you when you're in the paddock. So especially like at a Gridlife event, there are so many people that come to a Gridlife event. The paddock is just full of people walking around. A lot of them are not
paying attention.
Racers, so they're not paying attention. Their heads are on a swivel, going back and forth between all the cool cars they're seeing. I'm trying to drive through the paddock and they can't hear me.
Yeah.
So I'm like constantly honking my horn at them and then surprising them. And they're jumping out of the way because they can't hear the car. So the one downside to not having any kind of noise coming from it, but it's a small price to pay, I think, overall.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think that's another good point is like it's not about getting rid of internal combustion engines, right? You can be both pro EV and still enjoy an internal combustion engine car. And I think that sometimes people in the motorsport community think it's like you're either one or the other. So it's really nice to see, somebody like you who really does specialize in both, showing, look, hey, there's multiple options. So I definitely appreciate that. And I think the tone overall towards EVs has definitely shifted in a more positive direction over the last few years. So hopefully that trend continues.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely seen a lot of people who I think either would have specifically told me or maybe I would have thought would have never driven one or are considering them now. And that's fine. I mean, it's, again, I'm not here to push one way or the other, to say you must drive EV, you must drive internal combustion. Again, I'm just giving people options and showing them that there are options for either path to be able to have fun with your car. One of our taglines here at the shop is a fun car makes life more fun. And ultimately, I mean, that's what it's all about. It doesn't really matter, specifically what you're interested in. It's just how can you use that car to have fun, and if you can do it slightly more responsibly, then great. That's let's still have fun with it. To the point in which somebody tells you that you're no longer allowed to drive that car, for whatever reason, have fun with it and have a good time with it. So I just wanted to make sure that life as a performance EV owner wasn't going to be dull, which is why I got the car. And again, like if I don't at this point, turning the car into a full-on basically track car at this point. And I say full-on track car, I mean it still is interior car, basically a street car with a race seat in it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I mean, I think even to that point, like I wouldn't have stuck with it this long, and I wouldn't have taken it this far if it wasn't at least that much fun to play with.
Yeah. No, and I think Tesla just did a great job with the Model 3. I mean, the chassis is really well done. The suspension is really nice. I don't think we'd have had the same experience if we were out there trying to race Chevy Bolts.
Right.
So, you got to give credit kind of where it's due to Tesla for, I think not just saying we're going to build a great EV, but we're going to build a great car and something that people can really enjoy. And I think they really delivered on that. And I think it's exciting to see what comes in the future because it should really only get better from here.
Yeah, I think so. It was nice of them to actually focus on a performance car, which everyone else who had worked on EVs before then or developed EVs did not focus on performance at all.
Yeah.
It was all on efficiency. So it was cool to see somebody actually, put effort into saying, this can just be a fun car to drive, no matter what powers it can just be fun. It was good to see them take that step because it legitimized EVs as a normal everyday alternative. And now everybody else is following that. I still don't think anyone has still hit on the performance side of it like Tesla has. But there will be others that will come and that will attempt to challenge them from the performance sedan sort of perspective. But right now, they still have it. And they did a great job to get that out there.
For sure. So, what has interested you about the Model 3 Challenge, and what's kind of what are you excited about for it? I
spent a lot of time in this car. And I spent a lot of time in development and probably have a bit of a unique perspective because there's probably not that I've taken count, but I can't imagine that there's too many shops that have been building performance cars as long as I have that spend as much time at the track as I do. Mm-hmm. And I think because of that, it gives me a unique perspective from knowing what the car can do and then constantly being able to mess with the car and make changes and taking it to the track as often as I do and having the tools at my disposal that I do for setup and testing. I think it's just given me a unique perspective to really try to jump into this series to really show what the cars are capable of. And even at like the last Gridlife event, at CMP last weekend, it was I ended up second in that event to a Subaru that I also build and prep, so it wasn't a complete loss for me.
Yeah.
But we were very close. I think at one point our fastest times were about a tenth of a second off of each other. So super close times, and then we were, I think, 5 seconds to third place.
Yeah,
5 seconds in front of third place. So, I mean, it's the car is super capable, and I definitely kind of know how to set the thing up. So I was super excited to get out there with other Model 3s because I never get a chance to drive with other Model 3s at all. I'm pretty much the only one that's ever there at these events. Just excited to get out there and see how the car compares. I think I got a really good shot at doing well in the series. And yeah, just wanted to show kind of what I've learned about the car over the last 2.5 years of development on it.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're obviously a very good driver, and it sounds like you've set the car up, fairly well. So I definitely think you're going to find, a lot of success in the series. But yeah, we're super excited. We're really excited to have you as a competitor. The goal of the series was kind of exactly what you said, which is get a bunch of Model 3s together because, on your average track day, there's either no other Model 3s or maybe there's one other person there, right? And it's just fun to race comparable cars. That's why we have Spec Miata, Spec E30, all these different series where you pit similar cars together. So we really wanted to kind of bring that vision to life, for an electric vehicle, and the Model 3 was definitely the right choice.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be fun. I'm really excited to get out there with other ones. I mean, obviously, there are a lot of other people that have, kind of teams of cars. Mountain Pass has teams of cars. Unplugged has teams of cars. Just a lot on the East Coast, it seems like, and a lot on the West Coast. And there's not a whole lot in the Midwest that I get to play with. So yeah, I'm just super excited to see if my thinking on setup and my take on setup is correct for the car, to see if it really is as fast as I think it is.
Yeah.
And I like the competition aspect of it. I think the way in which the series is going to be run, I think, is really cool. I think it's a interesting, unique format to put into place, and I'm really curious to see exactly how it ends up running. Because it is a little bit different of a format than some other ones, or the typical time attack format. But I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and I think that's the main thing. I think it's just going to be a lot of fun to get out there and compete in that sort of almost like toge battle in a way, the way it's being done. I think it's just going to be a cool take on a time attack,
Yeah. No, I mean, I got to say, we ran a test event and we had 7 cars, and it's the most fun I've ever had in the Model 3. Just chasing down other people was, that sense of competition and that thrill of the chase is really just kind of brings the whole experience to the next level. So I definitely think that there will be no lack of fun. And with the cars being a little bit power limited, these races or stints that are a little bit longer than you'd normally get out of like a time attack, I think it's really going to come down to driver and setup. Like, those are going to be the key points. So how well can you set the car up and how well can you drive? Because it's not going to be just solely, can you go do the fastest lap? Yeah,
and that is, especially the power consumption side of it. I mean, I am used to running on 255 street tires because that is, for Gridlife street class, that's all I can run for an all-wheel drive car. So from my perspective, it would be nice to be able to run on wider tires, because I overheat those 255s so fast.
Yep.
I mean, with me in the car is like 4160, I think, as it sits. So, I mean, it's a heavy car for 255s, and I drive typically pretty aggressively. And as a result, especially from that time attack perspective, trying to get that 1/4 lap, I overheat the tires really, really fast. So it would be nice, and it'll be challenging, I think, for me to be able to drive almost more of that kind of endurance style, driving, 9.75 tenths as opposed to like 10.2 tenths in order to get the tires to last just that little bit longer so that I don't overheat them so much. And that's really going to be interesting from an energy usage perspective and state of charge, to see how power starts to drop off. Because generally speaking, the way I drive the last weekend, for example, I mean, if I go out there at 100% and I do a warm-up, 2 hot laps and cool down, like in the podium sprint, I mean, it was down to like 65% at the end of that.
Yeah, it goes quick.
I tear through the battery. Again, I'm aggressive with the throttle, but I really tear through the battery. So it's interesting to see for sure how that's going to work out in terms of state of charge and being able to get back to, the full battery before getting back out there again.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure how many sessions there's going to be every day, but I think management of charge is going to be pretty crucial in terms of getting through the weekend and scoring well from a points perspective. I know there were a couple. There was a session that I specifically didn't attend last weekend. I qualified in the morning. I skipped like the middle session because I knew if I went out that middle session, I wouldn't have had enough time to charge back to 100% before the podium sprint. I was like, well, I need to make sure that I'm at full charge for the podium sprint, so I'm going to sit out this other qualifying session that I really don't need, just to make it a little bit better for myself. So, yeah, I mean, there's going to be some gamesmanship from that perspective,
Yeah, it's definitely a unique challenge, and there's a little bit of strategy that's going to be involved. So I think that kind of adds a whole other element to it that some people may not be prepared for. So we'll have to see how that shakes out.
Yeah, I think I've spent enough time managing the state of charge at track events so far that I got a pretty good idea of what I need to do in order to keep it where I need to keep it. So I'm pretty excited for the strategy play there.
Awesome.
I think it's pretty fun. So, and I think the car is pretty well set up. I mean, there's one change that I have to make, to really be legal with the rules, which I think ultimately is actually going to have a pretty significant impact on how my car handles, because it's going to limit the amount of camber that I can run in the front.
Okay, yeah.
I typically run a lot more camber in the front than I'll be able to when I'm compliant with the rules. I'm normally 4.5 to 4.8 degrees in the front.
Oh, wow.
Is really what works well for me and my driving. So having to limit that a bit, which is what I'll end up, if I end up a degree less than that, it's going to change the car pretty heavily in terms of the grip that I'm capable of. Mm-hmm. And, I can definitely balance that with what I do in the rear of the car. But, that's going to have some impact for sure.
So. Absolutely. Yeah, well, if I recall correctly, so you're going to join us at Lime Rock and Laguna Seca, is that correct?
Yep, Lime Rock and Laguna Seca. I won't be able to make Willow Springs, I think the other one you're doing. I won't be able to get out to California twice. I'm just too darn far from there.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, we're definitely going to do Lime Rock and Laguna. That's on the plans right now. So I'll hit 2 of the 3 for this season. Hopefully that'll be enough to leave me in contention for some overall points for the season. We'll kind of see how it goes. I can't imagine that there's going to be too many people that are going to be able to hit more than 2, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think you're probably right about that, at least for the first season. But I do think it's going to really grow from here. And I think as people kind of see the opportunity and, to a degree, even just how great the Model 3 is a kind of dual purpose. There's not a whole lot of cars that you can comfortably drive on the street and then, go to a race and, compete. So it's definitely a unique platform and, a unique race. And I really think it's going to be just a lot of fun. And that's the ultimate goal, right? We want to have fun.
I mean, until even like probably 4 weeks ago, my car was actually technically my wife's car, and it was her daily. So awesome. She was driving it daily. I mean, she also has the Boxster that she could drive whenever she wanted. So she'd go back and forth. But most of the time, I mean, she was driving a Tesla. She considered that her car, and it wasn't until, I mean, even on the suspension and everything that it's on, which is basically full spherical bearing suspension at this point. It's running a set of Mountain Pass, like the Sport coilovers. So even on that setup, like we would take road trips in it. She would drive it daily. I would, after every event, I'd bring it back, realign it, take a ton of camber out of it in order to make it a little bit more livable for daily life, soften the dampers up, run basically just on full soft. And it was great. She didn't have any problems with it at all. And she loved it. And I swapped wheels. I've got a set of HREs that look like 20-inch HREs that look awesome for street use. And I'd throw those on there, and she loved it. So until I wrapped it, which just happened a few weeks ago, she still loved driving it every day. So it's a great dual duty car as long as you don't have too many stickers on it. I guess is what it comes down to.
Yeah.
But yeah, she really loved driving it every day, and she was very mad when I took it from her. And we decided to turn it into more of a track car for the season. So yeah, she was a little upset with that. But
hey, you can always get another one, right? All the price reductions. Tempting.
We thought about it. We thought about it heavily. I ended up in a BMW again for her, which I've had, I don't know, I think 16 BMWs or 17 BMWs.
Oh, wow.
Big BMW fan. So she ended up in another BMW for now, but she definitely misses the Model 3. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's an easy car to own, that's for sure.
It really is. I wouldn't be surprised if we end up with another one or a 2. I mean, the 2s look pretty interesting if they ever come out. Or I really want a Model S Plaid. I think that'd be a fantastic daily. But
yeah,
of course.
No, 1,000 horsepower daily that you can drive luxuriously at the same time is
Right.
not really something you come across often. Every time I drive one, I'm blown away. I forget how just unbelievably fast they are, and then I go, oh yeah, okay.
They're crazy. I mean, even the base Model S at this point is not a slow car.
Oh no, I mean it's faster than Model 3 Performance by a bit of a margin in a straight line anyway.
Right. So yeah, either way, you can't go wrong. But yeah, I think we'll end up with another one. I have no doubt about that.
Awesome. All right, Tony. Well, I'll let you get back to it, but thank you so much. I really appreciate the time and look forward to kind of sharing your story with everybody else.
Cool. Yeah, good to talk to you, man.
All right. We'll see you at Lime Rock.
All right, man. Bye.
Bye-bye.